Hey friends, welcome to the Taking Your Next Step podcast from Collegians for Christ. Through each episode, we will journey together focusing on becoming better followers of Jesus. If you're eager, like I am, to follow Jesus Christ, then take your next step now by joining us in today's episode. As we come to this week, we will conclude our study on our identity, answering the question, who am I? And we'll look at this, the idea that we're created with purpose. We all ask the question, why was I created? We'll all think to ourselves, what purpose do I have in this life? These are deep questions that we'll ask ourselves sometimes, many times over and over, but we all desire to discover the answer to these questions. Basically, we want to know this. We want to know if our life really matters. And one worldview, as we consider this, argues that humans came into existence by chance through the process of evolution over millions and millions of years. The problem with this view is that it provides little value or significance to life. You see, if your existence is merely by chance, and natural processes are what created you or brought you into being, then you are not here for a specific reason. And therefore, your life does not possess a certain purpose. And therefore, your life has no inherent value. What this worldview leads to is a hopelessness. On the other hand, the idea that we are created by a master designer, the truth that we're created by God in His image, provides significant value and purpose to our life. You see, this reveals that there was great thought and design behind your existence, which means you're created for a specific purpose and reason. Think about that. It reveals there's significant value to your life. You're not just merely here to exist and die. You're not merely here, as one worldview would say, is just try to do the best you can with your life. That's all there is to it. No, there's so much more to life. There's purpose. And you are here at a specific time, a specific place. You look exactly like you do. You think exactly like you do. You act, and everything that goes into your being is for a specific purpose. So a big part of understanding who you and I are is discovering our purpose here on earth. And answering the question of why was I created helps us to form our true identity. In turn, it helps us to answer that question, who am I? So let's look at this. First, we want to think about this. Your purpose originates. Where does our purpose even come from? Back in the beginning, this is where we started when we started our study here. Genesis chapter 1, when it talks about when God created man. It says in verse number 26, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So we understand that God created us in His image. We are a reflection of Him. We understand because of sin, the image is broken, it's distorted, but it is not destroyed. We can be conformed to the image of Jesus Christ, who is the express image, the perfect replica of God. And as we conform into the image of Him, we put back together that broken or distorted image. And so we're created by God in His image. It goes on to say in verse number 28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So God tells us from the very beginning what the overall purpose of humanity is, and that purpose originates with its Creator. Psalm number 8, verse number 6 tells us this, thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet. You see, we see this purpose in the two commands there in Genesis 1:28, and it's to be fruitful and multiply, and then secondly, to have dominion. You see, God established the family as the core institution in society. God established the family, He established the church, and He established government. But the family is the core, it's the foundation of society. And so one aspect of this purpose is marriage and the husband and wife having children to multiply on earth. You see, every one of us is a product of this God-ordained purpose. We're here because of a man and a woman coming together. God designed it to be within the confines of marriage. We understand that doesn't always happen, but that's how God designed it. So every person is a product of this God-ordained purpose. We're here as a result of two people fulfilling their purpose of being fruitful and multiplying. Now, we understand from Scripture it's not God's will for everyone to get married or for everyone to have children. And this in no way minimizes your purpose in life, as the second command applies to all humans. And we see it's to have dominion. God uses the word subdue, and he uses the word dominion in relation to God's purpose. This purpose applies to all humans regardless of their marital status or their desire or ability to have children. So don't think because you're not married or think that you're unable to have children that this minimizes your purpose here on earth. It in no way does. Absolutely not. You see, the idea is that you're created by God to do something, to learn and work, and to exercise rule over what God has created. You see, work was instituted before the fall, and therefore it is good. We talk about work many times. I've got to go to work, and we're back to the grind. It's Monday, back to it. But work is good. Without work, you and I would be aimless. We would not be able to fulfill our purpose. And it doesn't necessarily just mean work as a career. There's many things that we do as work in life, whether we're working in ministry for the church, whether we're working around our home, whether we're working with our family, whether we're working in our career. There's so many things that can be defined as work. But God created and instituted work before the fall, so therefore we know that work was meant for man's good. Millard Erickson said this: man is to gain an understanding and control of the creation, developing it to its ultimate potential for its own good and for God. You think about all that God created. When you look on the earth, you see the animals, the trees, you see mountains, the sea, you see all of this. And the idea is God put us over it and said, look, here is all this of creation. It is yours, and I want you to subdue it, and I want you to have dominion over it. And from that truth comes so much of our purpose in life. Now, that seems broad when we think about all the different aspects of earth and creation. But as you begin to narrow in, you find so many specific, definitive purposes, careers, jobs, hobbies, talents. All of that begins to unfold under this umbrella of having dominion, of subduing creation. And so from this truth comes your purpose in life. There is a specific role you have in God's command to have dominion. There's a specific role that only you can fulfill. Discovering this purpose will give you clarity to your life, and it will fulfill the longing in your heart. It'll provide an avenue for you to exercise your calling in life when you begin to discover what is that purpose. And so from the command to have dominion comes the desire to create, to invent, to establish businesses, to provide government, develop organizational structure. From it comes the study of various fields in academics, from science to mathematics to the arts and so forth. From this command to have dominions, where we get the really motivation, if you will, to develop things, to develop nonprofits, to help society, and so much more. But what we want to understand as we continue, we want to understand, to answer the question of who am I, a big part of that is answering the question of why was I created, and understanding that you are not here by accident. Your life is not meaningless. You're not just a part of chance and time. No, you were created by a master designer with purpose in mind, and he put you here at a specific time and place to fulfill a specific mission and purpose that he has for you. And as you and I begin to discover that, and we must always understand too, as we discover God's purpose or God's will, as we're going to talk about on Thursday's episode, as we begin to discover what God's will is for our life, we always have to understand God's will is always unfolding. Meaning it may be something for when we're 20, and then as we get 40, it could still be the same, or it may unfold and be something different as God prepares and equips us for what is to come. So join with us on Thursday's episode as we look further into the idea of what our purpose is, what God's will is, and how we can apply that to our daily life. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If this podcast has been helpful to you, we would love for you to share it with a friend or subscribe so that you can stay up to date on the latest studies. You can connect with Collegians for Christ online for more information and resources at cfccampusministry.com.